All right, everyone, please put your books and papers on the floor. We'll begin today with a quiz. Do you remember what that felt like when you were in school? When the teacher said that? Chills running up and down your spine. What do I remember? What do I know? I didn't even read the chapter last night. Your inner voice said, yikes, or something worse. All right, here's the quiz. I wasn't kidding. We're having a quiz. Okay. What is this? It's not a trick. You're expecting you want some deep metaphysical answer? No. Okay, let's try this again. What's this? Very good, class. And this? Very good. And finally, this?
Kermit.
Kermit. That's a correct answer. You also get credit for a frog. Either one is right. It was easy, wasn't it? I mean, when you stopped thinking about it, when you thought maybe there was something more you had to get, lest you embarrass yourself. We don't want to do that. It was easy. You were able to immediately distinguish a flower, a rock, a frog. You didn't have to think about it. You knew, even if you weren't speaking it, you knew exactly what it was the moment I held it up. This is the function of your ego in its natural state. It is the function of your ego in its natural state to allow you to be able to distinguish in this human experience one form or another. And that's very valuable, because if we couldn't, we'd be bumping into people all the time. If all we could see was our spiritual vision, if all we could see was our oneness, we'd be bumping into things all the time. And so the ego is a neutral portal of perception that allows us to navigate this experience. The ego, in order to do this, also offers us our free will. It is the spiritual facility of free will. For free will is freedom of perception. It gives us the ability to perceive the world as you and I choose to in each moment. These are some of the things that we took a look at last week. So, last week, after looking at that, we then asked the natural question. So why does the ego give us so much trouble? And my ego does give me trouble. And so we started to look at the ego in its unnatural form. In its unnatural form. The ego, when it stops merely distinguishing one thing from another, and it starts judging things. It starts resisting what is. It starts desiring that the events in our lives and the people in our lives be something other than what they are. That we desire that those people, those beliefs, those things that show up that we don't like, we desire that they change, that they be different. We have the thought, that person, that belief, isn't like mine, isn't like me. So I'm not sure I like this. I'm not sure I like them. Even if we don't say it out loud. And now, the ego has morphed from its natural, neutral condition into its unnatural condition. It morphed into the adverse ego. The adverse ego. And the adverse ego is adverse to life itself. Why do I say that? It's simply this. The adverse ego is never dealing with what's going on now. The adverse ego is always dealing with the thought about what happened before, or the thought of what might come to pass. The adverse ego is never present in the now. And so it is never engaged with life. Because where is life? It's, yeah. I heard someone say, it's now. Life is only now. This is kind of easy to prove to ourselves. Think about the past. Is life in the past? It doesn't take a great leap of reason to understand that one. No, it's not. There is no life in the past. Is life in the future? It's almost as easy. Bless you. Life is not in the future. Life is only present now. And the adverse ego doesn't deal with life. It deals with a thought about life. The ego becomes attached to physical forms. The adverse ego, I should say, becomes attached to physical forms. It completely forgets the formless world of spirit from whence it comes. And it does come from the formless world. The ego, the natural ego, comes from the formless world of spirit, as do we. And there are no exceptions to that. We all come from that place. The adverse ego becomes attached to beliefs and thoughts, like, my way is the best way. Or there's my favorite. My way or the
Highway.
Highway. There's one a little further over that way, too. My way or the highway. You could turn it into a Frank Sinatra song. My way or the highway. I won't say anything. Craig's looking at me. Don't go there. That was just spontaneous. My next lifetime, I'm coming back as a crooner. But I'll wait. For your sakes. The ego also becomes attached, and this is the most subtle attachment that the adverse ego makes. It becomes attached to roles. It becomes attached to the roles that we play in life. Now, mind you, there is nothing wrong with playing a role. I mean, we all play many roles, and there's nothing wrong in that. However, the adverse ego, from a feeling of lack, stands behind the role, hides behind the role, becomes the role. It allows the role to become everything. For this one reason, the reason the adverse ego plays roles is the thought that I am not enough. I am not enough. And when I have that thought, I may allow a role that I play to fill in whatever it is I think I'm lacking. And when I'm playing a role, I'm not in the now. You see, to play a role, you have to think about the role. What does the role demand? What does the role look like? What does the role sound like? What does the role do? So you're always thinking about the role, even as you're acting out the role. And when you're thinking about it, you ain't in the now. You can allow that role to become you. If I only acted out the roles that I have played, son, brother, lawyer, yoga instructor, minister, if I'm only acting out the role, I'm not present to what is actually going on. I've created a virtual me. I've created a little me. Where have I seen that before? Dr. Evil. And I love it. He says, mini me, you complete me. This is what popped into my mind as I'm working through this material. Because we can create, yeah, it is scary. Very scary. We create, some of us, I mean, I'm not saying we do this all the time, but I've done this. You create, at times, you create a little mini you, a projection of yourself, a little avatar. And you live through that. You live through that function, that role. This is great. Okay. When the adverse ego is at play, it cares very much about what is happening. It cares a lot about what happens. It wants to be in control of everything. And it knows at all times exactly what is good and what is bad. There's a great, he's since passed. I've seen this gentleman in videos, never live, in person. He was a phenomenal Indian philosopher and spiritual teacher, whom I know some of you are familiar with. His name is J. Krishnamurti. J. Krishnamurti, from everything that I saw of him in the videos that I witnessed, everything that I read of him, he was always serene. Always. And it wasn't some kind of blissed out, otherworldly serene. No, it was an in this world sense of serenity. He spent over 50 years traveling all over the planet, speaking and teaching, attempting to his best to use words to express that which is inexpressible, to talk about our spiritual truth, to do what we attempt to do here together. Because we're here together to understand, and more than understand, to live out that which cannot be expressed in words. Well, at one of his talks, very late in his life, he surprised his audience when he said this. He said, do you want to know my secret? Now, many of the people present had been coming to listen to him, to learn from him for 20 to 30 years. And in that time, many of them had never grasped the essence of his spiritual teaching. And so this room filled with hundreds of people reflexively leaned forward together. The room got very still, very quiet. And he said, this is my secret. I do not mind what happens. He didn't elaborate. It is speculated that most of the audience that evening that arrived perplexed left even more so. What does it mean not to mind what happens?
No judgment.
No attachment.
No judgment, no attachment. Not minding what happens implies that you are in alignment with the present moment. You are in alignment with it. You are not resisting it. You are not judging it. You're not rejecting it. You're not pushing it away. You're with it. You're witnessing it. And this is really the question. To be or not to be? That is the question. Are we going to be present to the moment and what is going on? Or not? For when we are not in alignment with what's going on, when we don't accept what's going on, when we don't accept what's going on, when we resist it,